Hello, everyone, and welcome. We're going to get started in a few, maybe 1 minute, once people get settled joining the webinar. I see that people are just joining now. My name is Janine Rios, and we will get started in about a minute. Hello, everyone. My name is Janine Rios. Welcome to our webinar today. It's on breakfast tips and strategies for fueling success in rural districts. And just a little bit about our webinar series that we've been doing. We did a survey. Well, after every webinar, we do a survey and find out what is it that you, the participants, are looking for. What type of support do you need? And this came up as one of the interests and needs is learning more about rural communities and having more resources for rural communities. So today you are in for a huge treat. We have three amazing speakers that will be talking about their districts and what they're doing. We're going to have Kelly Earnhardt from Sabinal ISD here in Texas. We're going to have Nikki Hawthorne from Putnam County Schools in Florida. And then last but not least, we're going to have Heidi Miles. They're all directors of food service. She's from Pioneer Central Schools in New York. And so we are just going to jump right in. Next slide. So just some housekeeping. If you haven't been in our webinars, no need to take furious notes. The webinar will be recorded and the slides and the recording will be sent to you about a day and a half after the webinar. And then you can also find it after that located at the Center for Best Practices website. During the webinar, while the participants are speaking, we ask that you add questions to the Q&A box, but you're also welcome to add them to the chat. Next slide. And basically, this is the welcome. We're going to introduce our panelists. They're going to just jump in and share about their programs. We're going to leave some time for questions and answers, and then we're going to wrap it up. And with that, I believe, next slide. Oh, I'm with No Kid Hungry, and we are here to support your districts and really increase access and help you to do that through your school meals programs. And I think I have one more slide. We wanted to share some of our resources. You can always find these at our Center for Best Practices, but we wanted to highlight some of the new and upcoming resources. We have our newsletter that is sent out every month, and it has resources and information about webinars. We have a resource on absenteeism and breakfast after the bell. And we have some upcoming webinars. One of them is on rural non-congregate for summer meals. And then we have a new non-congregate resource on summer meals outreach. It's a summer meals outreach toolkit. So we want to definitely make sure that you see that. And that will be in your follow-up email. You'll be able to access this resource. And without further ado, I'm going to pass it to Kelly.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kelly Earnhardt with Sabinal ISD. I'm super excited to be part of this. I have a really great success story to share thanks to No Kid Hungry and just everything I've learned from being part of this organization. So I would like to kind of talk about some of the things that we've done here for the school district to increase participation. It was next to nothing when I got here 3 years ago, and I just thought, what can I do? What can I do better? What are we, what are we just not doing right? And it's kind of that saying, if you build it, they will come. So that's kind of the mindset we've had with it. Now we can go to the next slide, and we'll start off with talking a little bit about Sabinal, Texas. We're a little itty bitty town. We're part of Uvalde County. We're west of San Antonio, which is the closest city. The county itself is pretty good sized population, 24,000, almost 30,000 residents. Of course, this is a lot of country land, so there's a lot of miles between. 1,552 square miles of land, and we are the 16th largest county in Texas. So that kind of gives you a little insight about when we talk about rural, we are rural. So, but we're not to the point of riding horses down the highway. So we're still driving our cars. Sabinal itself is only, it's really, again, really small, a little over 1,300 residents here. Our student enrollment is 453. Now, that plays into the fact that we bus students from neighboring towns such as Uvalde, Canepa, D'Hanis, and Utopia. These are little towns. If you blink, you know, you're going to pass right through them. Overall, district-wide, we are at an 88% economically disadvantaged. That number went up. And one of the things that we were realizing is that sometimes when parents enroll their students, when they're filling out the applications, they're not always turning in what they need to be qualified for free meals. And I believe that was one of the questions, Janine, that I read. And so what I did is I got involved with enrollment the first year. So when the parents were coming in and I had my little table set up and was introducing myself, kind of helping traffic control, making sure parents were getting those application forms in. So being part of your district enrollment, if possible, or your campus enrollment will help you with that because you may answer questions for parents on the spot. So needless to say, we do offer free breakfast and lunch. And it is available to 100% of our students. So that's district wide. So the next slide. Now, of course, we all talk about, we should all know this, the benefits of eating breakfast. Kids are hungry. You don't know what the kids eat the night before. You don't know if they had a proper meal at home. So when they wake up in the morning, they're going to be hungry. Uh, Eating properly at school really helps restore the energy and the vital nutrients after a night's sleep. Believe it or not, we continue to burn energy and whatever we've had throughout the day as we sleep. It definitely puts a kid in a better mood. You see students come in and their eyes light up when they see their favorite, breakfast item on the serving line. Of course, it enables better learning and improves school performance, especially now we're going through some of our testing for because we're winding down our school year here. So we make sure we got a good menu going for them. We're a very active district when it comes to extracurricular activities. So they need that fuel for sports and that energy just to keep going. And of course, I would like to say it reduces excessive snacking. However, if most of these students are like my own kids, they can eat a full pancake, bacon, you name it, breakfast and still want to snack in 5 minutes later. So, but it definitely does help reduce those snacking tendencies. And of course, our kids need to grow. They need proper nutrition for growth. I know we get a little frustrated with some of the guidelines we have to follow, but like I tell my staff, there's a reason why we need to teach them to eat healthy here at school. So, immune system, we're around, all of they're around each other all day long. So you got one student sick if they're not eating or properly fed. Not eating can definitely affect your immune system. And of course, brain power for the learning. They're here to learn. They're here to grow, and our breakfast plays a crucial part of that. Every day. No, next slide. We're going to talk about some of our challenges. Now, I'm 3 years into what I'm doing. I thought, okay, it's a school district. You can just buy whatever you want. Well, sorry, we don't have bottomless pockets. Funding was a huge issue for us. And I come from a mindset where, kitchen equipment is important. You have to have the proper things in order to cook, good food. And in all honesty, I mean, kind of embarrassed to say this, but we probably had, and I'm sure I'm not the only one in this boat, but we probably had pots and pans that were 30 plus years old. And because my staff has almost been here for 30 years and they can talk about when that certain pan was bought. So I've got some tenure here. Equipment the same way. We've managed to get some things through grants, equipment grants. Labor has always been, really big uh, as far as the ratio. The location of the cafeteria has been our biggest issue when it comes to participation. And we are a small district. However, the cafeteria is kind of a standalone building. the students from elementary walk here, which is not a far walk. The same thing with junior high, high school. Now, when the students are bused, junior high, high school gets dropped off in front of their campus. Those kids are not about to walk over here to get breakfast. I'll tell you right now, that's one thing I've learned. So we take breakfast to them now. Lack of student interest had a lot to do with what we were serving. We were so focused on feeding more elementary students here because they are bused here every morning. So we feed 95% of our elementary students every morning because they are either dropped off here by their parents or they're bused here. So I think the mindset for I guess the menus that we used to create in the past was more geared for the smaller kids. And we had to make sure, hey, we got, some big growing kids here that we need fed, whether male or female, and they have appetites and they don't want, some of the things that the little kids want. So we had to get really creative with that. School activities, when I said we were a very active district, so most of our students that are involved in something, just were going straight to where they needed to report for that, whether it be track, football, you name it. And overall, these have really put a huge impact on participation because they just weren't coming to eat breakfast. So next slide. So what we did is we had our breakfast grab and go cart. We debuted that this past school year, or this current school year in September of 2023. So I have to the left the picture. I like to share this because this was just a utility cart that we already had that we weren't using. It's pretty big. I was like, well, I'll buy some styrofoam Cambros, use them for our milks to keep them cold, and it did really well keeping anything warm. And to the left is one of my cooks. She's been with the district almost 17 years, Josie. Caleb is pictured there with that big old giant smile. He is our grab and go breakfast cart boss because he takes charge of it 100%. And the picture to the right is myself. And as the students were, as they're walking into the secondary campus, that's how we were set up at first. It was some nice weather, cool morning, so we'd set it outside for the ones who were waiting to go in. And that's literally how we got this started. It was, I was reluctant. I wasn't sure how it was going to be accepted. And it was, kind of basic, as far as, your fruit, cereal. Sometimes we didn't always have room for everything to fit. And then we grew up. We grew from there. So the next slide talks about, or actually it's more pictures. Sorry, I say pictures are worth 1,000 words. So be resourceful. Now, Caleb, the photo to the left, the purple shirt with the giant smile there, he is a 2023 graduate, and he is he's disabled. He's had a hard time trying to adapt to something here in school. He was helping the football team. They brought him into the cafeteria one day and say, what can you do to teach him some life skills? So we tried helping him work with concessions and count money. That didn't work out too well. So he started, he was our sanitizer. He sanitized all of our breakfast cards and so on, and he got bored really quick. So we started using him in the kitchen. And this is where Caleb grew up. He really took on ownership of a lot of things. When the idea came about for the breakfast grab and go cart, we figured, he's going to do really well with that. The picture to the right is Caleb partnered with our secondary principal, Mr. Alvarado. He's been one of our biggest supporters of this because it's his kids that are now eating and getting that breakfast, and they love it, and he loves it. He loves to see them, walking through the hall with their taco in their hand or whatever it is that we're serving for the day. So these are some two important people that have really helped me get this up and running. We'll go to the next slide. This is now, of course, this is our athletics team here. But if you can see the stainless steel cart in the back, this is what we grew up to. We're big time now. So, I'll get you a better picture of that here in a minute. But now we station ourselves inside the secondary campus as they walk in, gives the kids more, sitting room if they want to kind of just sit there and hang out and eat their breakfast before heading on to class. Again, there's Caleb with a big smile, and Rosie. Rosie's been here. Actually, she'll be retiring next year. She'll be completing her 30th year next year. So she's the one who gives me all the insight on how long we've had equipment. So, but these are our girls enjoying their breakfast. Oh, we can go on to the next slide. And now that was, of course, before the bell. Excuse this photo, but I really forgot to capture what it looks like when athletics comes in between first and second period. So they're in athletics their first period, they're out doing their thing, and they come in and they know that we're going to have breakfast waiting for them. And this is just a snippet of what I was able to take off of our surveillance camera. I'm going to be honest with you about it. So, because they left already, and I'm like, oh my God, I need a photo. It's like, well, I'll just rewind the camera. So this is about a third of what was in here. We feed about, I would say about 50 to 60 kids after the bell. And that's huge because before we started this, we were feeding maybe 3 to 5 high school students and maybe 10 to 15 junior high students. So you figured 20 junior high and high school would eat breakfast every day until we created the After the Bell and our Grab and Go program. All right, next slide. All right, successful best practices. The number one thing, the first thing I did is I got with our administrative department, teachers and principals, and explained to them, this is, this is the path I'm taking. This is where I'm going. I need your support. I had some teachers kind of reluctant. Well, the trash, and I'm like, we have trash cans. I said, these cans can be wheeled around. I mean, we were worried about trash being just thrown all over the campus. Once the kids realized what we were doing and what we were offering them, they have been very respectful of things. So that wasn't too much of an issue, but it did take the buy-in or the support from administration and the teachers to make it happen. So the teachers, when they open the door to allow the students into the room, the first thing they are thinking is, they're walking in with a taco. And I thought, well, they're just probably jealous because they don't have a taco. So, but it's going really well. We're like said September, we're almost a year into it, and it's I have a great team here, so they've really supported me. Student council, I mean, they've done an amazing job. When our student council was running for president, I listened to the videos. I wanted to see, okay, what are these guys? What are their goals? What do they want to work for? And they talked about two things. They talked about the long cafeteria line and talked about the type of food versus, they're in high school and of course they're eating nuggets and they just wanted something different. So they have been my ears, my eyes, my voice. They come to me and they give me ideas. So when I went to our product show, we use Labatt for our food supplier. And when I was invited to the product show, I met with not all suppliers there are going to be geared towards breakfast, but I got everyone involved that could give me ideas on breakfast. And I had Rich's Bakery, which is one of our suppliers, come out. And she brought me tons of different samples. And I say I had my own internal cook-off with these samples. I invited student council. I invited, I had them invite students that have been vocal about their opinion of the school meals and so on. And of course, I invited our admin and even the superintendent join. And we did a sampling one morning of the different breakfast things that we could offer, different things that we hadn't been using. We had a huge, like an hour-long taste testing session, and got their opinion on what they liked, didn't like. Started getting them involved with menus. Say, hey, what would y'all like to see? What was give me some ideas. Which was great because now they're creating more work for us. So now I had to get my staff involved. That was more important. My staff is the one, they're the cooks, they're cooking. So once we got, I say all the stars aligned, we really moved forward with it. And this, more importantly, the students have appreciated us for making these changes, and they see how we're working hard to satisfy their needs and their likes and when it comes to eating. So most of all, take pictures of what you do. If you got something new, take pictures, put it on social media, show it off. And last but not least, ask for help. I mean, I'm reaching out to my suppliers, my vendors, other school districts, my neighboring school district, I always ask for help. I'm not shy at all. So if that can be some any takeaways for any of you that have not tried any of these, I mean, feel free. I'll be happy to answer any questions directly if you need to. So, all right, next slide. We're going to talk about numbers. This is my win. I'm very proud of these numbers here. I mean, we went from serving in last school year, you can see that 3,600 versus the 14. My superintendent honestly questioned why, like when I was turning to do my claims, because like I said, you know, we do offer 100%. My claims were doubling and tripling my reimbursements, and it was because of this. Breakfast has played. I mean, we still have some nice movement there with lunch, but breakfast has been a huge, huge success story for us, and it works. It takes time. You're gonna have to work out the kinks. It's not always gonna be perfect. More importantly, I gotta say you got to be committed to it every day. You have to offer this every day in order, because the last thing you want to do is not have the time to prepare a grab and go cart, and they expect them to have breakfast and you're not there. You're going to see some sad faces. So this just gives you a screenshot of our win, and that just tells me how many more students are eating, how many more tummies we're feeding, and that fulfills uh, my heart. I can't even begin to tell you how touching this is for me to see. So, and it hit me really hard when I put this slide together, because I really didn't compare it like this until now. So it's definitely a big win. So next slide, and I think that is it for me. So if again, I'm happy to share my success with you guys. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. And I'm gonna pass this on to Heidi. I'm sorry, that's gonna be Nikki next. Is that correct? Nikki, I'm sorry, Nikki. Thank
That's
you.
all right. Thank you, Kelly. And that was
good.
a fantastic presentation.
Thank you.
Kudos to you and your team. Thank you so much for joining today. I'm Nikki Hawthorne. I'm the director of Putnam County School District. We are located in Northeast Florida, south of Jacksonville. We have around 11,000 students in our school district, and we are 100% CEP. Next slide. So I know the buzz now is intermittent fasting and people skipping breakfast or delaying breakfast, but around here in Putnam, we like to say we break the fast at breakfast time, first thing in the morning when you're arriving to school. And I asked a school to take photos to help me prepare this presentation for all of you today. And of course, I picked one of our elementary schools that absolutely loves breakfast in the classroom. They are champions. Everybody is, but this school in particular. And you see Merla having a little fun on the breakfast cart. She sings in the morning, every single morning as she's packing those bags that we'll talk about. And she absolutely loves breakfast, loves feeding the students, and prepares everything with a lot of love. Next slide. So this slide is really just kind of showing that No Kid Hungry is such a big partnership for us and has been since we implemented this program, Breakfast in the Classroom. And because of their partnership, they helped us put all the equipment in place to really get us started. And those insulated totes there with our logo on them, the breakfast carts that we kind of roll out, they helped us purchase those. So they were just really key in kind of getting the equipment that we need to really get this program going. Otherwise, we may have not started it and been able to fully roll it out district-wide. Next slide. So around 10 years ago, when I got here as the director, just like Kelly just mentioned, she kind of looked at the participation and kind of wasn't pleased with some of those numbers. And I noticed overall for the amount of free and reduced students that we had in our county that we were just pretty low, especially at breakfast time. So when I compared the schools in our county, I noticed that one of our middle schools in particular was extremely low, the lowest in the county, in fact. And so I really just decided to, all of you have salespeople that call on you. So I kind of put on my sales hat, pretended I was a salesperson, and set up a meeting with the principal at that middle school. And again, this was about 10 years ago in 2014. And really prepared a document and put it in front of him with just data and facts to kind of say, here's how many students you have in your building. Here's how many that are eating breakfast. And do you think those students with the free and reduced lunch rate at your school are really eating breakfast? Most likely they're not. Middle schoolers are really more into the social scene, and you really can't capture them at breakfast a lot of times. So I kind of just explained to him the need, what the data was. Obviously, all of you on this call know the many benefits of breakfast. So I just presented some of the real data and research that is out there, and kind of like showed him what that looked like and the research that has been done. And then also just gave him some other data that was from the Food and Research Action Center. And that was really helpful for him to just see, like, okay, this is really being talked about, and the importance, especially in student achievement. And I always thought it was interesting around testing time when you have the principals kind of wanting, they're kind of interested in breakfast during testing days. And I always think, well, what about all the other school days? You know, I'd really like for them to care about the students' nutrition for all of the school days. So we kind of had discussions about that and just presented to him what the need was, what the benefits were. Go ahead to the next slide. And so I went ahead and just addressed some of the barriers that all of you have heard about related to the Breakfast in the Classroom program. And I know we'll probably talk about buy-in quite a bit today, but honestly, in order of importance, I went to the custodians first before I even went to the principal. And I kind of met with them individually and said, hey, this is what it would look like. Here's the logistics. Here's what our staff will do. Here's what, you know, you might need to help us do, and kind of work through that. Our current vendor that we had awarded for pest control, I actually set up a meeting with them and went and met with them and got their cell phone number so I could text them if I happened to need them. So kind of eliminated that barrier if it came up, lost instruction time and talked through that. I also found some teachers who were really breakfast champions that really liked this model, and they felt like, especially in the younger grades, it was kind of teaching etiquette of how to eat. Perhaps they don't even have a family dinner table at their home. So they were actually able to model and kind of show some eating etiquette as a group, as a classroom. And so some of the educators really liked that they could kind of work in those type lessons. I also had other teachers like it because they didn't have to do the breakfast lunchroom cafeteria duty in the morning. It kind of eliminated having that monitoring happen in the morning, that the students just went straight to their classroom. So some administrators and teachers as well kind of liked that they didn't have to find coverage or actually do those morning duties, and kind of eliminated that as well. And it's messy. We talked about what menu items we would start with. I do know that I have on here muffins and cereal, and I will tell you that is actually, both of those items now, 10 years later, are on our Breakfast in the Classroom menu, believe it or not. But we started out by doing more simple items, and kind of to sell it, we said this is what our menu will look like. But over time, these students have been doing this majority of the time they've been in school here. So they kind of know how to clean up after themselves. They kind of just know. It's just really embedded in our culture now. So we just have added back some of the items that we didn't start with over time. As I was in this meeting 10 years ago, the principal I was meeting with actually was radioed to go to the gym for an emergency. And so he went to the gym, he was gone for a few moments, and then he came back and he said, I actually was just called to the gym because one of our students passed out. And when she came to, she said she had not eaten all day. So as fate would be, he said, "I'm sold on this program. When can we get started?" And fortunately for me, this principal 10 years ago is now our superintendent. So he is more than happy to talk to other school districts and is just such an incredible advocate for this program. So the stars definitely aligned for this program in our school district. I also just wanted to point out the picture of Merla holding that clear bin. We use 2 of those bins. One is cold and one is for either the hot or cold item. And those are from Walmart or Amazon. And believe it or not, we always take temps of that milk if milk comes back, and they really do hold the temps. And it's just something so simple. So I wanted to point that out because we utilize something that's so simple and it really does hold the temps well. Next slide. And then, of course, increased participation means increased revenue. And as Kelly said, she was actually questioned because of that. But that's always usually a good thing, because then we can purchase even better equipment to put right into our program. All of our schools are breakfast in the classroom, pre-K all the way up to 12th grade. We have one school that's not on the program, but everybody else is. District-wide, we're at about 80%, and that's of our student enrollment, not just of students who are present for that day. We have a 3-week menu cycle, and of course, I just listed a few of our savory favorites. We are always on the hunt for a savory protein item. But we do kind of rotate our items pretty regularly and kind of have a pretty robust breakfast menu. I also like it because if you're having staffing issues at a school, you can add more hours because you're utilizing that revenue from the breakfast, and you need extra hands to prepare and pack those breakfasts in the morning in the bins. And in the totes, and delivered to the classrooms, and picking everything up. So that does require more staff. But because of that extra revenue, we're able to actually keep that staff on to have those extra hands during the lunchtime. So that is very helpful for our program, and we really utilize that feature. And next slide. And this is my contact information. If you want to contact me after the webinar, feel free to call or email me. I'll be happy to answer any specific questions that you may have related to your specific needs and program. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Heidi.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me to speak at this seminar. I really appreciate the opportunity. My name is Heidi Miles. I'm the food service director for Pioneer Central Schools. We're located in Western New York, about 40 miles south of Buffalo. We're a rural school district. We cover about 227 square miles over 4 different counties. And we have 4 different buildings, 2 elementary, 1 middle school, which is 5th grade through 8th grade, and then a high school 9th through 12th. Go to the next slide, please. So I thought it might be helpful to see what type of models we use in which of our buildings. And we have had free breakfast for last year. And then this year we have free breakfast and lunch in all of our buildings. During the COVID years, we found that the free breakfast really increased the number of students that were eating breakfast. Last year, our district decided that they would pay for the breakfast. All of our schools didn't qualify for CEP last year, so our district picked up the difference. And then this year, all of our schools did qualify for CEP, so they're on CEP now. During COVID, we did have breakfast in the classroom for our elementary schools. And now we've just changed things up a little bit as we found the things that work the best. So at our Delavan Elementary School, we serve just our pre-K students breakfast in the classroom. We take parts of their classrooms. Early arrivals, so we have a latchkey or we call it clubhouse program. So those students, a few minutes before the other students start, they eat their breakfast in the cafeteria. And then the rest of that building, kindergarten through 4th grade, grab their breakfast, they go through the cafeteria line, choose their items, put it in a bag, and then they take that to their classrooms to eat. And the reason I mentioned each of these buildings is a lot of times I think we have the idea that every building has to do everything the same. And we found that each building is so different in how their students come in, or the space that they have to eat, that we've needed to do a different model in each building. Arcade Elementary, the kids come off their buses and they eat in the cafeteria. After their first bell, they need to go to their classroom. If they're still eating, they do allow them to finish in the cafeteria and then feed to their classroom by the second bell. Now, the pre-K students in this building actually don't eat until after everybody else has eaten. Their classrooms are at the other side of the building. And so they go and get all their snow clothes off, or get their backpacks put away, and then they come and eat after the second bell in the cafeteria. So they actually have time built into their day to eat breakfast. They do take a little bit longer to eat, and this way they're not hauling all that food down to their classroom, and they can all eat together, and it really makes a nice community effort. Our middle school, all of our students can go right to the cafeteria on arrival, and then their server remains open until the second bell. Next year, we'll be adding some grab and go carts. That's our plan to try to catch the other side of the building. It's quite a long building, 5th and 6th grades on one side and 7th and 8th on the other. So we'll try to catch all those kids as they're coming through the doors with the grab and go carts. And this school, the middle school, is our lowest breakfast participation. They tend to be very social, so they're all going to their lockers, talking to each other. We feel that if there's a cart available, that perhaps they'll take that food and then go to their classroom. And then our high school, which we actually served less than 50 kids before we started the grab and go and second chance breakfast. And today we had 297 children eat breakfast. So it has grown immensely. We find that second after the breakfast group is equal to the first group of students that come in. And again, we hope to be adding some grab and go carts to the high school next year to allow students that may have first period at the opposite end of the building. It just is a large kind of spread out building, and this should help them be able to get their food and eat before their first period. You go to the next slide. So, in order to get the stakeholders to buy into this program, we were very fortunate. Like I said, we had shown already through COVID that this would increase, breakfast if it was free. Our district leaders were very proactive. They were happy to find a way from the general fund to pay for breakfast. And teachers, principals, custodial staff, everybody was on board. It was, I have to say, an easier transition than I expected. But I will say that I do feel that, the more people you can get involved, especially your custodial staff, the things we heard was it'll create a lot of garbage. Yes, it does create garbage, but we have the capacity to deal with that. So, just finding easy ways by putting extra garbage cans maybe in the hallway that the students dump, the classroom garbage into, or, making sure, I think Nikki mentioned about serving some things that maybe weren't quite as messy in the classroom, at least to start. And involving support staff. Our special education department, was really on board because it gave them an opportunity to feed the kids. This is something that they were doing in the classroom already, but now they could come in and have time, together to eat the breakfast. One of the other things we have done is try to make breakfast kind of a buzzword. So we use some social media. Consider having past principals have had games or contests for breakfast. If you attend so many days a week, then maybe you get to have breakfast with a principal. Some of the other things I have seen schools do is, to offer breakfast with a coach, a popular staff member or a community figure that maybe would be in the cafeteria at breakfast time to kind of meet and greet and just, gets kids involved. I feel like once they try breakfast and they're like, this is so easy, we go through quickly, we can grab something quick, that they're more apt to do it more likely. Even if they don't come every day, they might come 2 or 3 times a week. And finally, just be flexible. you know, we all have great ideas and we think we've got it all planned out, and then somebody throws a little wrench into it. And instead of, you know, giving up or shutting down or being told, you know, this isn't going to work, find ways to get around that, you know, talk to people and listen. You know, when people ask, you know, take the time to listen to what they're saying, you know, and come up with a solution to answer each of their, you know, each of the negative things or maybe the concerns that they have, to having breakfast in the classroom or breakfast after the bell. Next slide, please. So some of the challenges we ran into was, you know, time. There's very little time available for breakfast. It's really not part of the day scheduled. So it's, you're trying to sneak it in between the kids getting off the bus and getting to their first period. So in our buildings that have that morning latchkey, we do offer those students time to eat before the other students get there. That takes maybe 30 to 50 kids off of our plate for that first line through. You know, what time does your school begin? Our high schools begin quite early, and our students you're in here eating breakfast at 7:15 in the morning. I don't know how many of you have high schoolers, but they're not always so thrilled to be eating at that. They're not even thrilled to be up at that time of day. So that's where we find that second chance breakfast. Really, by that time, they've kind of warmed up and they're ready to eat something. The free breakfast, I think, is a huge way, obviously, to get students to be involved. But, you know, once we ran the numbers and found that the cost of the district was definitely worth the benefits to the student, it was a pretty easy sell. And then, like I said, this year we've been able to participate in CEP. So I guess, you know, kind of in conclusion, you know, offer breakfast in the classroom for certain grades. It may not be for every grade in every school. We offer at our middle school, students can get off the bus early if they're going to breakfast. They do have to go right to the cafeteria. So that, you know, is an incentive for them to get to go to the building early, but also lets us get students through the line in a amount of time. We also use swipe badges or pin pads to enter. At our elementary school, we've attached swipe badges at the beginning of the year to their backpacks. And so we can quickly swipe them in and get them through. We also use name badges that are given to the teachers, and that way they can give them to the students before they come down to eat breakfast and lunch. And that just speeds up the line a little bit. We've done pre-bagging things like milk and juice that all the students are going to take, and then they add to their bag their entree and the fruit that they want. And again, you know, customize with your schools. We always try to keep things so much the same at each building, but I think Kelly mentioned that the differences between what the students eat. You know, the little kids, they may want something that's very simple, where the older kids, you know, they want the eggs and a meat and something a little bit more to eat. I did see one of the questions that was on the pre-list of questions people had asked was about what we serve for breakfast. So I don't really have a slide for this, but I thought that I would mention the types of things we serve is bagels and cream cheese. We offer yogurt parfaits with fruit and granola, breakfast egg sandwiches, and breakfast pizza. Some of the other things that we're looking at for next year, we're trying to get away from so many sweet grains. So we're looking at things like an egg casserole or a scrambled egg bowl, something that's easy that kids can just pick up and go. Hard-boiled eggs with like a pita or a muffin or a bagel. A hot ham and cheese English muffin. So not everything has to have egg in it, but it gives kids another option. And then like an oatmeal or grit, depending on the, you know, part of the country you're from, kids might enjoy that also as a hot option. So if we go to the last slide, I did include a slide here, and really you don't need to read through it now, but just some of the places that I had found really good resources that we took, you know, to our stakeholders in order to get things rolling, and also some toolkits that are just really good for, you know, breakfast after the bell and having a breakfast program. Thank you very much for letting me speak at the seminar.
Awesome. Thank you so much to all presenters. We did have a lot of questions come in before the presentation, and we have our first question I see here in the chat from Candy Beal. And it says, what was, to all panelists, what was the most helpful in implementing breakfast after the bell? How did you sell it to administrative staff? I know some of you talked about it. And it says, I have a secondary principal that doesn't like change. I'm assuming it doesn't like change. So let's start with Kelly, and then we'll go to Nikki and Heidi.
Okay. Yeah, so I was faced with that same challenge. Like I said, he's my #1 supporter now, but he was the one that was giving me the kickback of the trash. Well, his teachers, we're not going to like the food in the classroom and so on. But what it took is when I invited him to the taste testing, and he sat with the student council. He sat with, I mean, I must have had at least 30 people in attendance during this taste testing, and he was part of that. And to see the excitement on the kids' faces, and the superintendent was just in awe with the idea. And the food was good. The food was great. I mean, it's not like we're just trying to, throw food at them and them say, hey, they're great, they're eating. It actually, he had to get hands on. He had to see it for himself. And that's, and I told him, I said, if I have to go pick up trash myself, I will. I said, but it's nothing like a trash can down the hallway is not gonna. I mean, it really was. I think he thought too much into it, but once he got on board, he's been on board with it 100%.
That's awesome. Nikki?
I guess my advice would be to kind of gauge, do they eat breakfast themselves? I would present the data and stick to your data and the facts that you have for your particular county. Maybe even do a student survey to see if the students even are consuming anything, and are they really not eating anything before lunchtime. So I would stick to the data that you have and the facts and student survey. And I also wanted to add another benefit. When I presented this plan of breakfast in the classroom for the first time, I said that the teachers, the educators in the classroom, along with their aide or whoever they have working in that classroom, since they're technically our point of sale on our behalf as cafeteria staff, they would also be able to eat breakfast for free. So that was a perk. And then we also provide, I didn't share, we provide hand sanitizer and Lysol wipes. And that's kind of like an endless supply for the school year, which is also a perk for them because obviously they use it at other times during the school day besides just breakfast. So that's my answer to that question.
Awesome. Thank you, Nikki. It sounds like too, like you mentioned before, you went in, talked to the custodial staff, got information ahead of time, kind of built that support and built that trust, which I've heard is very helpful. And then you all have mentioned, and we'll go to you, Heidi, next, is not avoiding the problems or the potential problems, but kind of meeting your community and then figuring out solutions, which is what I keep hearing. And Heidi, what would you say?
Like I mentioned before, we were fortunate that we did have a very easy buy-in, but we have had different groups of teachers or certain grade levels that had concerns. And so that is why we have some different models available in each of our schools. Like, for example, the pre-K. It just is a different age group, their capabilities of what they can eat, how fast they can eat, that type of thing. So we've just really tried to listen to what the concerns were and answer those without kind of arguing back and forth that it's good for everybody. It is good for everybody. And like Nikki said, the data does prove that. But sometimes I think they just need to hear how it's good for their particular group. So if you're having trouble specifically with a principal of a certain grade, grade level building, really listen to what their concerns are and see if there's a way that you can meet them or get around what the concerns are. And it may be just an evolving thing. Sometimes they just need to see, maybe you just do it in the cafeteria and so many kids come through and then move into breakfast after the bell and then breakfast in the classroom. Just maybe once they see the benefits, then they'll be able to move on.
I love that. And also, Nikki mentioned surveys. And I think too, if you have the words of the students, right? If you do a simple survey, a few questions, and you have their voices, that probably goes a long way as well. We have 2 new questions. I think this one's for you, Heidi. Can you please enter the resources on the last slide into the chat? I'm not sure if you can do that right now, or if you even have access to your own slide deck. So if you can,
I will try to do that. Let me try. Yeah, I'll try.
Lauren. And either way, you're going to get this on your follow-up email. So don't worry. And then she has a question. How do you find the acceptance of prepackaged foods, both breakfast and lunch items, especially since there has been recent emphasis on more scratch preparation? And so with that question, I'd also like to put it to y'all to kind of give us your most popular items. With Heidi, you kind of already mentioned some of yours, but if each of the participants could answer that question and kind of highlight your popular items.
Sure. Well, being that we're from South Texas, tacos are very popular. So we have tacos twice a week. We have Taco Tuesday and we have tacos on Friday. Another popular item was one of the products that Rich's Bakery brought out. It is a maple flatbread. I don't know if your McDonald's in your area has a McGriddle on the menu. And so it's very similar to that. And we use, we'll make breakfast sandwiches out of them that with the sausage. You know, sometimes we'll do it with cheese, without cheese. They're very, very filling. And it, you know, it meets all the criteria, the grain and so on, the MMAs. So that's, I like to really put Rich's products out there, but I also realize that we've got participants from all over. So I hope this is something that is available to you because I brag about it. So I don't want to let you down and you're not able to get it. So
Nikki, did you want to share?
I think I had a couple of the items listed on my slide. Off the top of my head, there's a breakfast taquito that our students go crazy over. We have a wide variety and we're constantly rotating. I have a fabulous dietitian that just keeps, it's not just the same thing over and over again. And she does a fantastic job of really switching out our items. Honestly, cereal they come in like the 2 ounce and there's all different varieties. And I don't know a kid that doesn't eat cereal. So now that we can serve it, we have that on our menu at least once every 3 weeks. So that's a pretty popular day, and we're actually looking to maybe add it another day as well. But going to the food shows is a great way, obviously, to kind of see what's up and coming when you're looking for products.
That's awesome. Thank you. And as you've all kind of mentioned, depending on where you're from, depending on your students and what they're used to eating, it could vary different across the country, and kind of being in tune to what they like, what they need, what they crave. Heidi, did you want to add anything else?
Yeah, I just would mention that one of our most popular items, which I don't think I mentioned before, in our high school is Rich's has a pre-proofed cinnamon roll that we bake in-house. And that day you can smell the cinnamon throughout the whole school. And not only is it popular with the students, but we get a lot of staff that day too. So that's really nice. And then breakfast sandwiches are real popular with both the middle school and the high school. So they, egg and cheese or an egg and sausage, something along those lines, with a biscuit or an English muffin. But it really does sometimes, the menu does determine, who comes that day. We do offer, besides our one hot item, we also always have cereal. We always have yogurt. So we try to offer at least 3 choices a day at each building. And then at our high school, we usually have even more than that. But offering some options. Cereal is always, like Nikki said, cereal is always a good choice. So, some kids that they just like that every day, and other kids want to have something different every day.
Awesome. Thank you. Y'all are getting me hungry for tacos, taquitos, and what did you just mention, Heidi? Cinnamon rolls. I can just envision them. We have another question. This is about breakfast carts and accessibility. Have you had any challenges with students with disabilities? Has anyone run into accessibility issues, and what have you done to solve those problems?
Can you repeat that question? I don't see it in the chat.
Sure. It's in the Q&A.
Oh, okay.
I didn't see it either. Hannah directed me over there. How are breakfast carts when it comes to accessibility for students with disabilities? Has anyone run into any accessibility issues?
No, I have not. I mean, being that the breakfast cart for us is so mobile, and we are where we're stationed, it's as the students enter the secondary campus. So and we do have a few students who are disabled, and you know they're actually one of the first ones who are let into the campus. So we haven't had any problems at all. But again, we're a small campus. We're a central cafeteria, so you know our breakfast cart goes to secondary campus. The rest of the students come here to the cafeteria to eat. So
awesome. Thank you. Heidi?
Haven't had any issues with accessibility, but we do offer students with special needs or special diets that we have something available for them also. So we have quite a few students who are gluten-free. So we have a special cart that we put their breakfast in. They know to go right there and get it. We have other students that have texture issues. So instead of the regular whole fruit that we have like a mixed fruit or some sort of a canned fruit. And we try to, do that on a, case by case basis. But as far as accessibility, I don't think we've really had any issues to this state.
Awesome. Nikki, did you have anything to add?
We do in the classroom, so we haven't ran across that.
That's awesome. And that's what I've kind of heard is like the cart can go to the students. There's even one school that gussied up a golf cart. And so they take it all around their high school and middle schools to get to the students. We have 2 more questions that just came in. Does everyone individually wrap or scratch items? And then do you offer more than one option for breakfast in the classroom? And we'll go, Nikki is off mute. We'll go with you first.
Okay. If a teacher requests that they want an additional choice, like maybe they have a couple of kids that only eat cereal every day, and that's just kind of what they eat, our goal is to feed kids and we want them to consume it. So if we have a request for that, we will add another choice. So by request, I would is the way I would answer that. And I believe the other question was related to the actual food breakfast items. We have in the past had like a chicken biscuit where we have put it together ourselves and wrapped it. So we have done that in the past. And in fact, when we first started out, that's exactly what we did, because 11 years ago, there wasn't a lot of individually wrapped items. I think COVID kind of helped that along. So when we first started out, we were very limited on the IW items that we could purchase. So we actually did, obviously it required more labor and more time, but we actually did, hand wrap and bake certain items.
Awesome, thank you for that. And then quickly to Heidi and then Kelly.
We have, now I just forgot the question completely.
No worries, it's right in the chat. If you can see the chat that says, does everyone individually wrap scratch items? And then do you-
Sorry about that.
Option? No worries.
So we do serve some individually wrapped items that come pre-wrapped. A lot of our items we do individually wrap, like our breakfast sandwiches, and that's because so many of our students take them back to the classroom. But I guess, we kind of do a combination of, kind of scratch cooking and pre-made products. We try to offer a little bit of both every day. I do think that, having things wrapped so it's easy for the students to pick up and take is advantageous. But I do know there are schools in our area who are serving from a hotline, just like they serve lunch. So I guess it just depends on what works best for you.
When we do our breakfast tacos, we use the single sheet foil. That just seems to work best. But when we do our scratch, well, I say scratch. So we do like I call it the McMuffin. It's the English muffin with sausage and so on. I am a 100 true believer in the foil hamburger sleeves. They keep the food warm. They do not cause them to get soggy or soft. So, and you get thousands of them for next to nothing. So yes, we do wrap. One popular scratch item that we have is the biscuits with gravy. And unfortunately, when we have it, we're not able to send it on our breakfast cart. That'd be a little too messy. So we do the Rich's breakfast sticks. So that's another popular item. So and that's as close to a scratch as you're going to get, because you still have to proof them and bake them. So but as far as options, one thing I will mention that I keep on my breakfast cart, I keep cereal as an option every day, along with a hot item. And I use the it's the from Rich's again, the Uber cookies. I don't know if y'all know what I'm talking about. I'm so sorry, I lost my train of thought on that one. That's also an option. So cereal and those cookies are an option, and they don't get to pick one of each. It's an either or, because either or does meet the grain requirements. But those help as far because they're already individually wrapped. So, but I think I answered those questions. Yes. So yes.
Awesome. Unfortunately, we are at time, so I'm just going to have each of you just mention one parting comment tip that you would like to share with the districts who are maybe just getting started. And then I want to remind everyone, after the webinar, you'll get a pop-up survey that'll ask you some questions about the webinar and maybe some questions about what you'd like to see in the future. If you can please answer those, that's how we do our planning and that's how we improve. And then I will start with Kelly, since you're off mute, and then we'll go to Nikki and then Heidi.
Okay. The best advice I can give any of you is the students' voices need to be heard. So they're going to be your best advocate. They're going to be your #1 supporter. And when you use them to participate in the ideas that you're wanting to implement, they're really going to they're going to be your support system. So definitely use your students, get them involved. Thank you.
I would just say to start small. When I started this so long ago, I went to the one school, and once we implemented it, we nailed it, and we got it really dialed in and worked out all the kinks. So then when I went to the next school, you know, I could present it in just a more crisp, seamless way. So it just became this domino effect, and it took around 5 to 7 years to implement it district-wide. Kind of school by school is kind of how I did it. So I would say to start small and just get it really dialed in before you kind of expand the program.
I guess I would agree with, Kelly, saying let's keep the students involved. And I also think that we need to keep the students informed. So once you start the program, we've found that sometimes it kind of falls through the cracks. The kids maybe don't, we start a new year and they don't know that we have new menu items and that type of thing. So, really having either menu items on a breakfast and announcements, or perhaps the teachers announce it in the classrooms and the younger grades, keeping the kids informed on what you're doing and what you have available, maybe even where the food's available. So if you're using carts to say, they're in XYZ hallway, or, between room this and that way the kids know what's going on. Sometimes we discuss it all with, all of our shareholders, and we forget that the students are also part of that. So I would say, as important it is to keep all of the administration involved, it is important to keep those students, on the radar and make sure that they know what's going on also.
Thank you so much. I can't thank you all enough. This has been such a wonderful time. I told you it would go fast. You had so many great things to share. We had wonderful participation and great questions coming in. Just thank you so much. And stay tuned for the follow-up email that will have the slides, and it'll have the recording and contact information for all of us. Thanks, everyone. Have a great afternoon. Bye.